My name is Erica Blonde, and I will be the meeting moderator tonight. AJ Tanner, our project manager, is going to be giving the presentation. We ask that you please hold all comments and questions until the end of the presentation. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few meeting controls for folks who are not familiar with Zoom. Next slide, please. Or you can stay on this one, Lauren. We are offering Spanish, French, and Creole interpretation this evening. You will notice a globe icon at the bottom of your screen. For Creole, please select Portuguese as the language. Please select English in the drop-down menu if you wish to remain in the English room, and the same applies to the other 3 language options. You will be able to see the presentation, but only hear the audio in the language that you selected. We have an ASL interpreter as well. If you would like to view the ASL interpreter at all times, keep your view settings in gallery mode. It should be the default setting. You can change this by clicking the button that says Gallery Mode in the top right of your screen. Gallery mode shows all presenters on the screen together. This ensures that you can see the interpreter as well as the speaker. If a presenter is sharing slides, this view will change. Your screen will primarily display the slides and the presenters and interpreters' video moving to be small in the top right corner. Often the default setting will show only the speaker, not the ASL interpreter. To change this, you can pin the interpreter's video. To do this, click the ellipses in the top right corner of the interpreter's video and select Pin Video. You will need to repeat this process each time we switch interpreters. If you need technical assistance, please call Michaela Jeromanek at 857-208-8985. Again, we ask that you hold questions and comments until the end of the presentation. We will review how to do that once the presentation is complete. Finally, we also have closed captions available for this meeting. By default, subtitles should be appearing at the bottom of your screen. If you do not see the captions, please press the closed caption button to get them started. I will now hand it over to Senior Director of Infrastructure Engineering and Planning, Joe Pavo, who will offer some opening remarks. Joe?
Thanks, Erica. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. My name is Joe Pavo. I'm a Senior Director within the Office of Chief Engineer. Before we start the formal presentation, I wanted to just briefly introduce myself and my team and how we will transition this project during the design phase. The lead project manager from my team will be AJ Tanner, who's here tonight and will be doing the bulk of the presentation. AJ will be working with the designer of record, HNTB, on program development and preliminary engineering phase for this project. Once this phase is complete, the project will transition to Guinevere Dunleavy, who is a senior project manager within the capital transformation team for the MBTA. Guinevere will be responsible for the final design phases and also to execute the construction phase for this project. During all phases of design and construction, the Office of Chief Engineer, led by AJ Tanner, will remain to provide engineering support all the way through the completion of this project. I'd now like to turn it over to Deputy Chief of Staff, Angel Donahue, for a few remarks before we start the formal presentation. Angel.
Thanks, Joe. And thank you for everyone in the community for joining today and for the electeds who have been fierce advocates on behalf of this project to get us to where we are today. Before we get started, I'd just like to acknowledge the staff of the many electeds who have also been really helpful in my team, who've been meeting on a quarterly basis to get us to where we are today. In today's presentation, we will go over the difference between the Mattapan PCC trolley refurbishment and the Mattapan Line Transformation program. At the end, I'll open it up. I'll open it up after for questions, and we'll allow some elected officials to provide a few comments and words about the project. So with that, thank you folks for joining, and we look forward to hearing from you at the end. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 parallel projects that are currently happening. We have the Mattapan PCC trolley refurbishment and the Mattapan Line Transformation program. We would like to note that recently in the capital improvement plan, we have recommended to the board $12.2 million in the capital investment plan, and that is an increase of about $4 million for the PCC trolley refurbishment. This is to essentially have a group of folks that will work solely on the refurbishment of these vehicles to ensure that we do not have the lapses and the delays that we've had in this program. I emphasize this because I think it's important to note that these trolleys are really important to the community. And there is a difference between the Mattapan Line Transformation program and the refurbishment, but we understand that this is a big and important thing for the community. Moreover, the Mattapan Transformation program is going to include $114 million in investment, or includes $114 million in investment for this program, and we look forward to hearing from members of the community and getting their feedback about how this transformation project is going to look. So with that, next slide. I think it would be important to remind folks the last time that we were here was about 3 years ago. On your left, you can see the refurbished Mattapan trolley, which is in service now. We anticipate that about every 5 months there will be a new car that will be introduced into the fleet that's refurbished. And then once the transformation program is complete on the right side, it will be replaced by the Type 9 light rail vehicle that is currently in service on the Green Line. This vehicle will be fully handicap accessible and will be reconfigured to accommodate the needs of the Mattapan line. Next slide, please. In today's agenda, we're going to cover the program approach. As you guys have seen, the program team and the program timeline, and then at the end we'll be taking public questions from folks and listening from some of our elected officials. Next slide. Just to again, we understand that the last time we came to the community was 3 years ago. I think it's important to note that the last time we came to the community, we proposed actually 6 options to the community. And from the feedback that we received from many, it was decided that option 3, which was repurposing the existing Green Line Type 9 vehicle, would eventually replace the refurbished PCC vehicles, which are so adored by members of the community. Next slide, please. And now I would turn it over to AJ, who will go over the program approach. AJ.
Thank you, Angel. Hi, everybody. My name is AJ Tanner, and I'm the MBTA PM for this new and exciting phase of the Mattapan Transformation Program. We're very excited to start the new phase of this program, and tonight's presentation is really an introduction to the program. Outside of a few major program themes, no major decisions in terms of design have been made to this date. This is really a meeting to kick off the program with you all, and we intend to keep the public involved as we do and make impactful design decisions. So right now the program resides with the MBTA's Office of the Chief Engineer. That is myself and Joe Pavo, who spoke a little bit earlier. Joe and I intend to pick up where the studies left off and work with you all, the public, and our design team to develop concepts for new infrastructure upgrades that will modernize the Mattapan line and provide readiness for the new Type 9 vehicles, as Angel mentioned. We will then work with you, the public, to evaluate those concepts and ultimately select options that will be further developed into a set of 15% design plans. As concepts are developed, our program team will also work on defining the program and identifying the most efficient ways to execute it. This means that as we work to define the program, we will look for elements that can be pulled aside and put on a fast track for construction, whether it be a full design bid build package, design build package, or another project delivery method. We expect that there will be multiple sub-projects within this massive program. At the 15% level, when the program is fully defined, the Office of the Chief Engineer will then hand the project off to Capital Transformation Programs team under Angel Pena. We'll take the program to its 100% design stage, put the project out to bid for construction, and oversee the construction phase of the project. Myself and Joe will stay very much involved throughout the duration of the project, and both teams are entirely committed to stay engaged with the public throughout each phase. Next slide, please. Here you'll see some of the details about our team. From the MBTA side, our program team is led by Joe Pavo, our Senior Director of Infrastructure Engineering and Planning for the Office of the Chief Engineer, and myself, Project Manager for the Office of the Chief Engineer. Guinevere Dunleavy from our Capital Transformation Programs team will officially take over as project manager after the 15% design plans are complete. Angel Pena, Chief of Capital Transformation Programs, will oversee the program at that time. Guinevere and Angel will also remain engaged throughout this first phase of the program, allowing for a smooth transition when the time comes. The MBTA put out a request for proposal for the design aspect of this project and received proposals from numerous qualified design consultants. After extremely careful consideration, we chose the team comprised of HNTB and Jacobs. We selected this team for this program due to their wealth of knowledge of the Mattapan line. Combined, they have designed multiple changes to the Mattapan line dating back to the 1980s, have completed inspections of the Mattapan line, and they conducted the studies completed during the planning phase. Our design team will be led by Phil Santos, Design Team Project Manager for HNTB, and Amanda DeGiorgi, Design Team Deputy Manager for Jacobs Engineering. You also see on the screen some of the discipline leads from the design team. Next slide. I would now like to take this time to discuss our plan for public participation. The MBTA is wholeheartedly committed to public outreach and engagement throughout this project. We will prioritize transparency and inclusion with a focus on communicating with you early and often. We also will honor all commitments and meet with the public when we said we would. Our goal is to maximize the public engagement opportunities throughout this program. We want your input on this important program. We expect to hold public meetings about every 6 months, and we are committing to that at least with you right now. A lot has happened in the past, and we understand your skepticism, and we're going to work tirelessly to earn back your trust and make sure that your voice is heard as part of this program. In our world, building a network of support is essential. We researched, identified, and developed our database of community organizations in Dorchester, Milton, Mattapan, and beyond. We'll pick up where we left off, building a stronger community engagement process. We'll identify more stakeholders and initiatives to promote a more inclusive, transparent process. We have an existing platform to continue engagement, which actually never stops, but only improves as we build trust to eventually reach our goal of consensus. And onto program goals. Our goal with this program, our number one goal with the program, is to increase safety of the system for passengers and MBTA staff. That includes, and I'd like to strongly emphasize this, providing ADA accessibility improvements to all 8 stations on the Mattapan line. At the conclusion of this program, all 8 stations along the Mattapan line will be entirely ADA accessible. The overall goal for the program is to completely revamp the entire line, including all 8 stations from Ashmont to Mattapan, and prepare it for the new Type 9 vehicles. Our team is focused on finding ways to provide immediate ADA accessibility and passenger safety improvements that are in line with the overall goal, but also do not require the entire program to be fully designed before we actually get strategic improvements built into the system. As we mentioned, we're looking to fast track specific improvements as part of this program. So when I say we're going to revamp the line, what does that really mean? And how do we achieve the goals that I just mentioned? The Mattapan Transformation Program will include accessibility enhancements to all stations and facilities along the line, replacement and modernization of the power infrastructure, strengthening of the corridor bridges, walls, and culverts, improvements to corridor drainage, new at-grade crossings, possible signalization of the Mattapan line, communication improvements, construction of a new maintenance facility, and implementation of state-of-good repair improvements. This program will design the overhaul of the Mattapan line for future deployment of the Type 9 vehicles with an approach that strategically phases the program to allow for the continued use of PCC vehicles until the smooth transition to the new light rail vehicle deployment, all while limiting impacts to transit operations. So this is just a brief timeline of the program. So right now we're in the very beginning of step 2. In the fall of 2021, we had a full survey of the Mattapan line completed. The survey will be used by the design team to develop concepts and 15% design. The MBTA elected to execute this survey while we were looking to procure a designer for the program to get things moving as quickly as possible. Prior to step 2, the MBTA completed a full assessment of the line and completed the planning and analysis phase of the program. That phase of the program is complete. As we mentioned before, option 3 was selected and all infrastructure upgrades will be catered around that choice moving forward. Step 3, which is the integration of the future vehicle fleet, will begin once the required infrastructure improvements are completed. Our immediate next steps will be to work with our design team to develop concepts for all aspects of the Mattapan line. Our team will lay out a full plan on how the improvements will be implemented, including an evaluation of specific and critical elements which require immediate attention. We'll work closely with this community to clearly and continuously provide program updates and to solicit input. The 15% package will also include items like environmental reviews, constructability analysis, noise and vibration impact assessment, and an urban usage plan to ensure that we have accessible and user-friendly paths of travel, pickup and drop-off areas, intermodal connections, and signage. During this phase, we will eventually transition the program over to the Capital Transformation Programs team for final design and construction oversight. We estimate the first phase, the 15% design, will take approximately 15 to 20 months to complete. As we continue to work on this program, we'll update the project website, which I believe will be mentioned at the end of this presentation. And we're planning on meeting with the community approximately every 6 months. There may be times in which we meet more frequently as needed. We will announce meetings in advance and we'll post the meeting dates on the website as well. You're also free to email trolley@mbta.com for any questions related to the program. I believe that will be at the end of the presentation as well. And I just want to thank everybody for your time today. We're going to be opening up the conversation to questions in just a minute.
Thanks, AJ, for that presentation. Before Erica goes over the Q&A portion, I'd like to give an opportunity to some of the elected officials that are on the call. If they want to offer a few words, I'm more than happy to welcome them. I will unmute you. I believe I saw Senator Walter Timilty, who is here. Senator, I'm going to ask to unmute you. Just wondering if you want to say a few words, and then we'll proceed from there. Senator?
Thank you very much, Angel. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. The opportunity here to conduct a dialogue between the MBTA and, of course, the people that we're all privileged to represent. Obviously, phase one is way behind schedule, and that hasn't been acceptable to myself and a lot of my colleagues. I'm just checking in regarding the refurbishment of the stations. Obviously, that's phase two. And, in the case of Milton, with the Milton Village Station, we have stairs that have been shut down for a couple of years now, and it's a public safety hazard, and it's also a blight. And I know when. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you were breaking up. I don't know if anyone else had trouble hearing the Senator. Could you? Are
we having trouble hearing you?
Yeah. Your reception was a little bad. Could you just restate that, please? Hello?
Okay, certainly.
Senator?
Certainly. In a nutshell, obviously, phase one has been shut. Yep, we're having trouble. We're having
a little trouble
just
hearing
with the audio.
Yep.
Okay. How are we doing right now?
That's better.
Okay. In a nutshell, when will we be getting to phase two in the refurbishment of the stations on the line? And of course, I'm particularly concerned about the Milton Village Station, which has been shut down for several years now. And it's a public safety hazard and a blight as well. And I know in Mattapan and Dorchester, the stations need to be refurbished as well. And I'm keenly aware that the MBTA is aware of that, but I'm just checking in to see when we're actually going to tackle those stations.
Mm-hmm. What I could tell you, Senator, is that right now we are firmly committed to making sure we are moving as quickly as possible to designing this. The transformation program overall. As AJ mentioned earlier, we are going to make sure that all 8 stations are fully handicap accessible. But in order to do that, we need to go and we need to make sure that the stations are designed. We're not there yet. I cannot give you a specific timeline at the moment, to be honest. And part of that is because the 0 to 50% design is the most critical, and that's usually the part that takes the longest, because that's where you're getting all of your foundational things. But we are doing everything that we can at the moment to make sure that we can accelerate that. As an example of that, as AJ mentioned in his presentation, we are doing land surveys, which is something that would typically be done at a later stage, to try and make sure that we're doing those little things at the beginning, and we can accelerate the project wherever we can. Yeah, Senator?
I'm right here, Angel. I appreciate the response. As I know it's important to the MBTA, I would just urge all deliberate speed for these stations. The Milton Station and Milton Village concerns me greatly with the public safety aspect of it. And obviously the stations in Mattapan and Dorchester are important as well to all of us. So I appreciate the response, and I thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to hearing my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next, I am going to ask Representative Brandy Fluker Oakley, who I saw here earlier. Just bear with me 1 second. Representative, I'm going to ask to unmute you.
Hi, Angel. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good evening to obviously the MBTA team, to my fellow colleagues, and to all of the residents and community members who are present today. I don't have much remarks as we've been in continued conversations. The entire Mattapan high-speed line delegation have been in continued conversations with the MBTA, and I'm grateful that we're finally having this meeting. And I just look forward to making sure that we're keeping the community up to date and that we're being transparent about any delays and ensuring that we actually deliver on the things that we said we would do. So thank you to you and the team, and welcome aboard, AJ.
Thank you, Rep. Next, I'm going to go to Representative Bill Driscoll. I'm going to ask to unmute you. And then lastly, I'll go to Representative Holmes. So Rep. Driscoll.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you to my colleagues in the legislature. And it's good to meet the additional team members from the MBTA here tonight. I've appreciated the enhanced communication over the past year. It was about a year ago that came to light how far behind we were on this project. So I want to thank everyone for pulling this meeting together today and the commitment to meet at least every 6 months. As was mentioned, the legislative delegation along the Mattapan high-speed line has been meeting at least quarterly with the T this past year, so that we can try and accelerate this as much as possible, because I'm not alone in hearing frustrations from riders of the line and constituents with it concerned about the future of the line. So along the way here, if there are ways to verbalize and show us kind of what the process is going to be like you have tonight, and go even further in terms of what we can expect and what we can anticipate, that'll certainly be welcome either tonight or the next briefing. The additional funds and people power toward refurbishing the cars and getting those back on the line is a really welcome addition. So hopefully that gets voted into the SIP in the future here. One thing that I think I've heard from folks, a question just to relay, is around what can we expect as this goes forward in the years ahead in terms of closures for the station work. So I'm imagining that there will be periods of time, perhaps long stretches of time, where the tracks will be essentially in a construction zone type of setting. And so do you have any foresight or anticipatory guidance that you could provide tonight? Would be much appreciated, just as we think about this lesson over years and years going forward. Now just looking at the design, going to take at least 15 months. So anything like that would be really helpful, so we can kind of think about other questions we may have.
Thank you, Rep. Joe, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. If you want to add anything to that, I'm happy to chime in.
Yeah, thank you, Rep. Driscoll. Joe Pave with the Office of Chief Engineer. Yeah, I think that question will be answered as we develop the program. Certainly, there are going to be disruptions during construction. That's going to be required, whether there's busing or some other alternative that will be determined. As AJ mentioned, as we develop this program, it's going to be full transparency. We will come back out as soon as we have a plan in place on how we're going to do this. We will come back and we'll be briefing everybody on it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rep. Next, I'm going to go to Representative Russell Holmes for a few words. Rep. Holmes, I'm asking to unmute you. Rep. Holmes?
It looks like he's still muted, Angel.
Try. Rep.
Angel, you gotta unmute Russell Holmes. There's two Russell Holmes here. You gotta unmute the second one.
Okay.
This is A. Devin.
All right. I'm trying to unmute right now.
Representative Holmes.
Rep Holmes. All right, so we'll get back to the representative at another point towards the meeting. Next, I'll turn it over to Erica, who will go over the public and Q&A discussion and how to ask questions.
Thanks
Erica?
very much. Thanks very much, Angel, and thank you to our elected officials and, of course, members of the community for being here. So going over how to make a comment or a question, I see we've got a couple coming in already, but to make a comment, you can send a chat to me. My name is Erica Blunt, and in parentheses next to my name, it says to send me a message. You can also virtually raise your hand. To do this on a computer, press the Alt key and Y at the same time, or you can click the raise hand button under the participants tab or shown at the bottom of your screen. On a mobile device, tap the raise hand button in the bottom center of your screen, and on the phone, dial *9. Once you raise your hand, you'll be added to a queue with others who have raised their hands. I will go first come, first served. When it's your turn to speak, I will say your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number and let you know that you're being unmuted. If you're on a computer or mobile device, a box will pop up in the center of your screen. You will need to confirm that you'd like to be unmuted before you begin speaking. If you're on the phone, an automated recording will let you know that you're being unmuted. You may speak as soon as the recording finishes. Once you're unmuted, everyone in the meeting can hear you. Before making your comment, we kindly ask that you please state your name and organizational affiliation if you have one. And we also ask that you limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes. Please try to make only one comment at a time so we ensure that everyone who would like to has a chance to speak. And if you have additional comments, please feel free to raise your hand again. As soon as you're finished, we'll meet you again. You may also post comments, as I mentioned, in the chat, and we will, of course, document these as part of the meeting record. And you're also free to send us comments at any time via email to trolley@mbta.com. So we'll go ahead and get started. I saw there was a comment in the chat, so we'll go there first, and then we'll go to our first raised hand. So the first comment was, appreciate outreach to community groups, and what is your approach to get input from individuals who are direct abutters? So I'll go ahead and answer this one. So thank you first for this comment. This is absolutely critical to us. You may have seen us already doing some in-station outreach in preparation for this public meeting. So you can certainly expect to see that again for future meetings. We're also setting up a 24-hour-a-day comment form on the Mattapan website that comments will go directly to our team, and that'll help us understand what your concerns are, communicate with you quickly, and help us understand how you prefer to be communicated with as well. We'll also look into different types of meetings outside of the large public meeting format, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you and being in touch with you. So if there are certain times you'd like to meet with us, questions we can help you with, please don't hesitate to reach out now via the email, and we'll alert everyone that is subscribed to the project of when we have the comment form available. So again, thank you for the question. And with that, I will first unmute Robert Rozovsky, and I'm asking you to unmute now.
Thank you. Good evening. Robert Rozovsky, Milton resident for 30 years, and I was taking the T for all of those 30 years until COVID hit, when I was one of the lucky few who was able to start working from home. I'm glad that Charlie is staying. I was very concerned over the 30 years. It felt like every now and then an elected official or an appointed official would put out what I call the clinical probe and say, well, we need to do something about this, Charlie. Maybe we'll have buses, maybe we'll have something else. And then when there was community uproar, they backed down, but then that would pop up again a few years later. So I really hope the T stays committed to what you started presenting already. I have a few questions. I'm curious what your commitment is to winter service, the first 10 to 20 years of taking the trolley. The trolley pretty much ran almost all the time in the winter, and occasionally the Boston Globe would do this feature about your giant snowplow. And then in the last few years, it felt like when there was barely a dusting on the rails, this trolley shut down, but the rest of the Green Line continued. And it really felt like it was a disproportionate impact on all the communities served by the trolley. So that's my first question. What's your commitment to continued winter service? Secondly, I'm just curious how you plan to make Valley Road stop accessible. And lastly, I'm just curious generally, what are the types of improvements that are needed for the Type 9 cars over the current PCC cars? So with that, I'll stop and I'll listen to the answers to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osowski. Joe, do you want to take a stab at the back end of those questions, or do you want me to hop in?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about the new cars coming in. So yeah, part of the program development, obviously, for this project is going to be looking at the age of the infrastructure. Everything has aged. As AJ mentioned in the beginning, ADA accessibility is one of the main reasons for this project. Obviously, safety is first and foremost for the MBTA as well. To address both of those and be able to bring in the new vehicles, we will need a major overhaul of the entire system. All new ballast track, all of the stations will be looked at for ADA accessibility. Valley Road is going to be difficult. It's something that the team is going to start looking at. And as we come up with options, we'll be back to the public to present those. I'm not sure if I answered the entire question. If I missed anything, please let me know.
No, you hit two of them. Thank you. I'm curious about what your commitment is to winter service.
Yep, that's a great question, Mr. Rozovsky. So as I think everyone knows, the PCC vehicle is from the 1940s, and that vehicle is obviously aged. And by refurbishing this vehicle, we're hopeful to extend the life of it by another 9 to 10 years. You know, when it snows after a particular amount of, when we get a certain amount of inches, we do have to take those vehicles out of service because they cannot run. The intent of converting it over to a light rail vehicle is so that we don't have that issue going forward. And so I think for the foreseeable future, until we get the light rail vehicle, we are going to continue, unfortunately, to probably see the vehicle maybe pulled out of service when we do have significant weather, snowstorms that do come in. And a lot of that is just due to the infrastructure and particularly the age of that vehicle. So we can repair it and we can restore it, but there are limitations that come with that.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up question just on that? Why were those same vehicles able to run successfully in the snow 20 to 30 years ago, but you're saying they can't run now? What's changed?
I honestly, Mr. Rozowski, I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay, I would appreciate that, because when the system shuts down and you're running shuttle buses, they're incredibly inefficient. Sometimes the signs are really misplaced. One time I walked to the Valley Road stop. I walked from Elliott Street down the stairs, and it was only when I got down the stairs did I see the sign that says the system's shut down. It was really a stupid place to place the sign. It should have been placed way up at the sidewalk on Elliott Street. And whenever I contacted customer service about this or other things, or late vans or late buses or waiting for 20 minutes, your system was unresponsive, and this really needs to change.
Well, we appreciate the feedback on that, and we'll have the team follow up with you. If you could just please put your contact information on the chat, and we're happy to follow up regarding why the PCC vehicle
Certainly,
has changed.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. So we'll now go to another written comment. The comment says, I feel this is an overcommitment that we have many times heard in the past. I don't think the Mattapan line needs this comprehensive overhaul. It just needs refurbishment of existing infrastructure. Phil, did you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take it. Hi, this is Phil Santos. I'm going to be the project manager, or I am the project manager for the design team on this program. And in terms of the overhaul, a comprehensive overhaul is needed for the implementations of the new LRVs on the line. But as the overhaul is being mapped out, what we're going to do in addition to that is determine what elements of the infrastructure can be fast-tracked for construction. And we'll collaborate with the public on those elements to make sure you're getting what you want. It makes sense to do, and it's aligned with the overall program goal, which is to bring the LRV into service in the eventual future.
Yeah, and just to elaborate that on that just a little bit, as you've kind of heard thus far, you know, to provide a more reliable and accessible service to the Mattapan line, we need to upgrade from the trolleys to the light rail vehicles. So with that comes these major infrastructure upgrades, you know, new track, strengthening of bridges and things of that nature. They're essentially required for us to provide a more reliable and accessible service.
And on the piece around the overcommitment, we certainly understand that. And you know, we have room. We certainly need to be better. And frankly, particularly around the community outreach piece. And you have our commitment that we will do that. And we understand that there are things there are relationships that need to be mended. And to the extent that this team is here, we are committed to making sure we're able to mend some of those relationships and make sure that we are accessible to the community and able to answer as many questions as we can and hear your input.
Great, thank you. So our next question will be from Robert Kearns, and I will ask you to unmute now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hello, I'm Robert Kearns. I'm a new resident of Hyde Park, Massachusetts. In Boston, I take the 24 bus to Ashmont, or sometimes in the Mattapan trolley, Fairmount line, or sometimes take 32 bus to the Orange line to get to work, as well as other things downtown. I am happy that you are all going to keep this as a rail service and not buses, as echoing your former speakers. One question I have is, will you mentioned rail crossings and signals, that sort of thing. Will you have transit signal priority at the grade crossings? I've seen this in LA Metro at the Gold Line. It's a lot faster. Sometimes, you know, it's the traffic lights. I think some of them, the Green Line has it. Sometimes it's the crossing bars. It's just a lot faster service. They don't have to stop and look for the cars, and cars just going through the intersection and not paying attention to the train. I think it could be safer. So if it's not something you're looking at, I think it'd be a good thing to look into for faster service and more safety. And the other question, I think I know the answer to this, but would you consider keeping any of the PCCs like they've had in San Francisco and other places where they run, like in Castro, where there's, you know, the light rail and the PCCs together? Whether that, I think in last meeting you said no, but you know, just wondering if that's still a consideration or not with the changes. And I echo, you know, concerns about the accessibility to the stations and the stairs broken down, that sort of thing.
I can take one part of that. So as far as all the grade crossings, yeah, that is definitely something that we are going to have the HNTB team take a look at. As far as what is done at each location, we're not quite there yet, but every grade crossing will be evaluated to ensure that we have safety measures in place, not only for vehicles, but also for pedestrians in the area. So that will be looked at for every single location. Every grade crossing. As far as the PCC cars remaining, that's not something we're considering right now, integrating them with the new vehicles on this line.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say again, I think having signal priority for the trains would be very important. Faster service, more safety. I think if you could do it on the Green Line too, that'd be great, but definitely on this Mattapan as a rider, I think it would be faster and safer. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Robert, for your question. So just a reminder to everyone, directions on how to participate are on the screen. Please click participants, then raise hand for verbal questions, and also feel free to use the chat directly to me, Erica Blonde, for any questions that you'd like to type out. So we'll go to another one of those typed questions now. This one says, I am curious, what has changed to assure missed opportunities of the past are not repeated and that the project moves forward. That AJ, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I can say is we have HNTB contracted currently to do a 100% design of this program. So I think that shows that the MBTA is fully committed to moving this program forward and executing it as intended, and in a way that we collaborate with the public. I think on one of the slides mentioned as well, you know, we have, I think, $114 million in funding already allocated to this program. So, you know, the funding is there, the design contract is there, and we're completely committed to moving this forward. And in terms of missing opportunities and collaborating with the public, like I said, we've committed to meeting with the public every 6 months, and we understand that the MBTA in general has not done the best job at engaging with this community, and we're going to do our absolute best to make sure we kind of right our wrongs of the past and build trust with this community again.
AJ, if I could just want to add one thing to that. Internally, the MBTA has also taken a different approach as how we develop these projects. The Office of Chief Engineer, we've only been in existence for a little over 3 years, coming up on 4 years. And taking a two-step approach where my team, as I mentioned in the beginning, will be scoping the project, developing this program, and then we'll be handing that off to the capital delivery team to execute on the design. And we will still stay engaged throughout that entire process. And also having, as AJ mentioned, a commitment for public engagement is something that we haven't been great at in the past. And it's something that we're doing a lot more of, and we're going to commit to doing that throughout this entire process. So full transparency and making sure every stakeholder is heard on this project is a commitment that we're making tonight.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to try to get Representative Holmes back, and then we'll go over to a question from Barbara. So let me try to unmute Representative Holmes, see if we can get that working.
Yes, it was working. I just apologize. I'm just trying to do 2 meetings at the same time. So thank you all for having the meeting. Thank you, Angel and the team, for answering all the questions, but you picked the wrong time. There's no way I want to get in front of Barbara's question. So I'm going to just defer and continue to let allow the community ask questions, but they are, from our pre-meeting, I think you're hearing the same things that I was saying in the meeting, in our pre-meeting, that we just want to make sure you deliver this time so that we can build that trust. The trust is going to be built by the small things you'll be doing to repair everything along the way, delivering these trolleys on time. And then I did see the comment about it may be overkill, that we just needed to do the trains, the retrofit what's happening now. But I think what we heard 2 or 3 years ago was important for us to move to a system that is not putting us in the place where we're going to have to redo all these cars all over again. We want to be able to use these cars that are being used all across the system. We thought that was most appropriate, but definitely I'll be here through the call. But again, apologize that I'm just conflicted with multiple meetings, and thanks everyone for attending. Thanks for giving me another opportunity to speak. I'll be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will go over now to Barbara. I have asked you to unmute.
Hi, I have a couple of, well, actually 3 questions. I was on the committee, well, I've been on a few MBTA committees, and I was on the committee for the renovation of the Mattapan Square T Station. And at that time, the trolley line was involved. Now, I have a question regarding the changes in the structure at the station. Are there going to be any changes at the Ashmont or Mattapan station to accommodate the new vehicles? And are there going to be electronic signals at the stops along the way to say, the trolley is 5 or 10 minutes out? Are those going to be added on? And a moment ago, you wanted someone asked a question and you asked for his number. I want to know if you all, this committee, are going to have a number so that the general public can contact you when they have issues instead of calling the regular phone number for the T, because they're not going to know.
I can try to answer a couple of those questions. The first question that you asked about structural upgrades. So the intent is for the entire infrastructure of the Mattapan line to be ready for the new vehicle. So that would include strengthening bridges, that includes new track and ballast, et cetera. So the whole infrastructure will be prepared for the new vehicles. Another question you asked about contacting us. So we do have the trolley@mbta.com email address that anyone is free to reach out to with questions, comments, concerns, for really anything as it relates to the program, and you know, we'll respond to any emails that come in.
Okay, my question actually was there going to be any restructuring or any new what do I want to say? If you might have to make some changes to accommodate the trolleys as they operate between stations, like Ashmont Station. Will there be any changes in that facility? Or Mattapan Square T Station? Are there going to be any changes in that facility to accommodate these trolleys? Because the size-wise, there's quite a bit of difference. And like you said, the bridges and the rails and stuff like that. I'm just asking about the stations. And then I asked about the signals, the electronic signals.
Yeah, so there'll be wholesale changes to definitely the Mattapan station. We're also looking at reorganizing the way that the Mattapan yard is laid out to accommodate the new vehicles. Ashmont as well, we're evaluating kind of how that station will operate as well. But you will see wholesale upgrades to every station along the line. And then yes, we will be looking at signalizing the entire line as well.
Okay, so you just have an email for contact. You don't have a phone number, or will that be something coming up in the future?
Yeah, I'll actually jump in here, Barbara. Thank you for the question, and then I'll turn it over to Angel. So we are setting up a comment form on the website, and we'll be emailing all of the attendees from this meeting with a direct link to that form that will be monitored by our team as comments come in. And then Angel, did you have news about a potential phone number?
Yeah, we're happy to provide a hotline number, and we can put that on the line. That is for the community, our community engagement team. As I said, we're committed to that, and we'll put that number in there. We'll make sure it's also added to the website.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. So we'll move on to another written question that we have. So this question says, one issue that continually gets overlooked is the rail section between Valley Road and Central Avenue. These PCC trolleys were not designed to ride on concrete ties, only wooden ties, which has resulted in excessive noise, vibration, and soil erosion from neighboring properties. Additionally, these concrete ties have resulted in reducing the life of the PCC's trucks. This needs immediate attention and continually gets ignored. AJ, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, so the intent there would be to replace all the concrete ties with wood ties. In addition to that, there will be a full noise and vibration analysis completed as part of the first phase of this project. So we'll be aiming to mitigate that, with the new program. Yeah, I think that's kind of generally what our plan is there. Joe, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is that the new vehicles are going to be much quieter than the existing PCC cars, just based on the suspension, the age of the suspension.
Great, thanks. Next, I will unmute Judy.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I can't be on video at the moment. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. I think you started addressing one of my questions relating to the noise. I live around the corner from Mattapan, and I think every morning at 5 or a little before 5, I'm hearing the trolley trains rev up for service when they are indeed in service, and that's when they are in service. But long story short, are the new model trains going to be quieter? That's one question. My other question has to do with the parking along with the revamping of the stations. Is there any talk about parking space being added for the public?
I think the parking will be part of the program development. It's something that we'll look at each location. We'll look at existing parking, and then we'll look at the needs at each location, whether or not we can accommodate additional parking.
Okay.
I think the other question was with respect to the noise of the new vehicles. Joe,
The new right
earlier, the new vehicles will be quieter than the PCCs.
Yes. Great. I'm looking forward to this change. I think it is overdue. But I'm so glad that you're incorporating and involving the community. I think there's still a lot to be said and as the plans develop. So thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Judy. So our next comment it was one of the written ones. It says, I am curious what has changed to assure missed opportunities of the past are not repeated and that the project moves forward.
I think we took that one already, Erica.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was the question 3, same as question 3.
Okay, apologies for that. So we will move on to the next question then, which is, of course, it makes sense to do the design recall. How long will this project take? Sorry, I was late. I live near the Mattapan line, and every morning around 5 or so, I hear the trolley starting. Will the new trains be quieter? I know we just talked a little bit about that as well, but a couple comments in there.
Yeah, so phase 1 for the project, so the 0 to 15% design phase is expected to take about 15 to 20 months. So during that time, we plan to develop a complete construction schedule. So we don't have a definitive timeline for the entire program yet, but we will be defining that as part of the first phase of the program. And I think we addressed the noise part of that question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the next question we have says, can the T commit to treating each station individually based on its unique needs and challenges? For example, public address systems on 5-minute repeats are not appropriate with direct residential abutters. Each at-grade crossing is materially different. The use profile and safety risks at Captain Street are markedly different than that at Central Ave.
So what I would say to that is that yes, we understand that every station is unique, and I'm sure there will be design and construction challenges to each station. We are, as I think, part of the reason we are here today and we're making this commitment about public engagement is to solicit that feedback and understand how we can fit the uniqueness of each part of the neighborhood and weave it into our plan. So. In essence, the answer is yes. We certainly intend of listening to members of the community about specific things that are related to each station that might impact them and see what we can do to try and accommodate.
Yeah, and to add to that a little bit, our intent is to do several concept designs for each station that the public will be able to see and comment, provide feedback on as well. So we will aim to provide a similar aesthetic throughout the entire line, but each station will be evaluated individually, and the public will see multiple concepts for every station.
Great, thank you. So I don't see any other questions at this time. We'll give it a minute. Again, raise hand function if you'd like to leave a verbal comment, and then chat if you would like to have a written comment. You can direct those to me, Erica Blonde, And I see we've gotten a couple more raised hands, so I will go
We
ahead
have
and.
one in the chat as well, Eric. I just want to make you aware of it.
Oh, okay, great. We'll grab that right after we grab a comment from Kenya. I will ask you to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I don't have a question, but I do want to just make a quick comment. So I'm a Mattapan resident, lifelong Mattapan resident, born and raised. And I remember as a child, I used to always take the trolley from Mattapan to Ashmont and from Ashmont to Mattapan. I don't live that far from Mattapan Station. And so although I very much love kind of the old style, kind of, you know, the way our trolleys look right now, which I do adore, I also, in past meetings and in my understanding, know that eventually that those style trolley carts, I guess, will eventually end up being phased out due to lack of parts to upgrade, to fix them, I guess, for lack of a better way. And that's how I understood it. So, I mean, I get down the line in the future, it may mean that we have to get new trolleys. And for myself as a Mattapan resident, I am absolutely okay with that. But I just want to go on record to say I do love the trolleys that we have now. Hopefully they could be kind of archived or put in some kind of museum somewhere where we can still kind of cherish them and the history that it's brought to the Mattapan community. But I also understand that eventually it may end up needing to be phased out, removed due to kind of mechanical constraints. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next comment is from Judy.
Hi, I just thought, because I noticed there are a lot of, if I have to use the trolley, we'll typically start off at the Mattapan station line. And I noticed there are a lot of older, more senior, I guess, transient people at that station, which I care about because my mom is also a senior citizen. And not too far from there is the Milton, I'm on the Milton side, but there's that senior home. And I know they too, some of them use that T line there. So I just want in the design that there be consideration for the elderly. And I'm not sure if this could happen at all, but if I can make a suggestion that there be some type of tie-in with the ride where there's a safe space where they can even use that as a point for pickup or drop off, because that older community sometimes definitely get taken advantage of and not recognized, if you will. There are also a lot of young kids at that station. So I just want there to be a safe layout, at least for the seniors at that station.
Yeah, I think Judy, that's a fantastic comment. It's certainly something that we will look into and work with the ride on as we develop this program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Our next question is a written question, and it says, how will the greater communities of Mattapan and Milton be made aware of these plans? Additionally, what is the overall timeline for this project? AJ, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think we touched on a little bit of this already, but the intent is to do meetings with the public every 6 months to update them just on the program, the progress that is being made. As I said, we're going to present various concept designs and alternatives for every station along the line for members of the public to see, provide feedback and comment on. That feedback that Judy just provided was fantastic. Definitely things we want to hear from the public throughout this program. And then I think the other question about timeline. So the first phase of the project, the 0 to 15% design, we're expecting to take about 15 to 20 months. And during that time, we will develop a complete construction schedule, which we will share with the public as it's developed. So we don't have a definitive schedule in terms of the greater program at this time. But we do for phase 1, and we will share with the public a construction schedule as we develop it.
Thanks, AJ. Thank you for that question. So we have another question here. Accessibility has been a big theme tonight. This question says, will Valley Road Station be upgraded to have ADA accessibility?
The short answer is yes. Every station along the line will be fully ADA accessible at the completion of this program, Valley Road included.
Great. So we'll see if anyone else has any questions. I see one from Lori here, so I will ask you to unmute.
Thank you. My name is Laurie Sheridan. I live near the Capon Street stop. And for many years, when the trolley has been out of service, we have been sort of serviced by shuttle buses down Elliott Street, which however has never stopped at Valley Road or Capon Street. In fact, in the past, when my husband was alive and was disabled in a wheelchair, he was sometimes dumped at Central Avenue by the shuttle bus, which did not continue all the way down Elliott Street to our stop, which was really unfortunate. Others have raised the issues about shuttle service in the winter and when the trolley is shut down. I just want to add that some of us are not served at all when the trolley is not running. And I wondered if there was a plan for rectifying that in the future with the new trolley service.
So the new light rail vehicles that will eventually replace the PCCs, these vehicles will not run into the same issues that the current vehicles run into, where we will not have to take them out of service when there is a snow event. And so we don't anticipate that when the new Type 9 vehicle comes in, that'll be a problem. The line will be operating during snowstorms, so the need for shuttling will not be to the same degree that we're having now. But during construction, there could be some disruptions. But what we'll do is we'll take your comments around the busing plan, and we'll bring that back to the bus operations team when they do a diversion that requires a snow emergency, and see what they can do to accommodate.
Thank you. I just want to follow up and say I'm concerned not only about snow emergency, but other eventualities that are inevitable when the trolley may be shut down for mechanical reasons or during construction. And I would encourage the T to find a way to to allow shuttle buses to stop at all the Mattapan Ashmont trolley stops, not just some.
Yep. No, I will take that that's great feedback, and we'll take that back to the diversion planning team when that time comes, and see what we can do to accommodate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Our next question is from Vivian, and I will ask you to unmute.
Thank you. Just kind of following up on the point that Lori just made about accessibility when it has to do with snow emergencies. I live in Mattapan, and when the trolley is down and then the 24 bus is the one that's being used to be able to, that bus will not stop the additional buses that they add. This is how it was in the past. I can't say that I've experienced this in the near past. They would not, the additional buses would not stop along River Street. And we were required to wait for the 24 bus that after a certain time only runs on an hourly basis. And there were times that I would be walking in the middle of the street and some of those shuttle buses would be completely empty on River Street because they had been told, don't stop for people, you're only allowed to stop at those stops that have been designated. And it was the middle of a snowstorm and I was walking in the middle of the street. The other thing I want to point out, having a conversation with DCR about accessibility when it comes to restroom facilities, the community room within the MBTA station at Mattapan has a restroom, but because of the fact that the transit police are not there on a regular basis, that bathroom is probably 90% out of the time inaccessible. From that point, the next bathroom that is along the trail, I use the trail often for bike rides and things, isn't until Pope John Paul, because Ryan Playground, the bathroom facilities there are only open when the spray deck is open and only during the day. So some consideration in having some type of bathroom facility at the Mattapan station, because Ashmont has that and you don't have anything at the other extreme. So making sure that there's going to be some facility that is accessible at all times while the trolley is running. Thank you.
That's great feedback, and thank you for that.
Great. I did want to ask the interpreters to make sure there was no one with comments in any of their separate rooms, but I don't see any other comments right now in the chat. So I don't want to call it a last call because, as we stated, we'll be out every 6 months and we will be sending out a link to that comment form. We currently have a live email, and then you heard a bit about the hotline that we'll set up So we'll have plenty of opportunities for engagement moving forward. And I think this has been a really important start. So without seeing any other comments or questions at this time, I will, Lauren, we can flip to the next slide and I'll turn it over to Angel regarding next steps.
All right, thank you, Erica. And thank you to the team and thank you to the community for joining us tonight. We really believe this is a really great reset of how we can rebuild relationships with the community on such an important project. We really look forward to hearing from you guys. And we're really looking forward to hitting shovels on the ground and designing a project that I think is really going to benefit the community and provide people with accessible service and reliable service going forward. So thank you for joining and thank you to the elected officials that have been advocating on your behalf. We look forward to continuing working with you all in partnership. Thank you, everyone.